There is a precise and rarely stabilized threshold in the inner work. It is the moment when the last substantial claim on worldly satisfaction is genuinely offered, not bargained with, not partially withheld, but spent. What follows is not ordinary disappointment. It is the death of an old organizing center of the self and the beginning of a new life oriented toward the purely spiritual and archetypal layer of reality. The Rosicrucians encoded this entire operation in the allegory of the Chymical wedding of Christian Rosencreutz. In that story, Christian receives a royal invitation to a wedding. The invitation is both honor and trial. Many are called, few are chosen, and those who arrive unprepared are judged and cast out. He journeys with difficulty, is tested at the gate, witnesses the weighing of souls, the beheading of the old king and queen, the careful preparation of new bodies, their miraculous revival, and finally the coronation of a new royal pair. At the end, he is made a knight of the golden stone, yet he is left knowing the work is not yet finished and that he must still live with care. The outer drama is the inner one. The old king and queen are the residual solar will and the residual lunar attachment still organized around the world. Their beheading is the death of that organizing center. The preparation of the new bodies and the revival are the reconstitution of the personality around a higher center. The new king and queen are the joined solar and lunar principles. The father is pure spirit and light. The mother is pure depth and receptive ground, now operating in living relation rather than in opposition or mutual starvation. The golden stone is the early stabilization of that conjunction. Jung later translated the same process into psychological language and called it the conjunctio oppositorum, the conjunction of opposites. As long as a final claim on outer fulfillment remains, the belief that the last piece of meaning, warmth, or completion must still come from the world, the deeper feminine remains partly projected and the ego remains partly dependent. When that claim is truly offered, when the operator becomes willing to lose the worldly treasure and die to the old hope, the projection can collapse. The inner feminine is then met on her own ground. The death is the death of the ego's old organizing fiction. The embrace that follows is the self beginning to hold the personality from a deeper level. Light and depth cease to be alternative escapes and begin to function as a single field. In more technical occult terms, the sequence is exact. The astral body carries desire, hope, fear, and the sense that I must have this or I remain incomplete. Even refined spiritual longing remains astral while it is still organized around outer satisfaction as the necessary completion of the self. The etheric body is the life body, the formative and vital forces that sustain embodiment. When a pure offering of the residual astral claim is made, several things occur in close order. First, the binding of the astral to the outer object or outcome is loosened. The long-standing stream of existential desire is withdrawn. Second, because that stream had been a major structural support of the personality, its withdrawal is experienced as dying, as terror, exposure, and the possible end of the self one has known. Third, when the offering is clean, the liberated force does not scatter. It turns inward and upward, strengthening the relationship between the ego and the higher poles, the pure solar father and the pure maternal mother. Fourth, the etheric body, no longer pulled and distorted by the old astral tension, begins to reorganize around a quieter vertical axis. This is felt as deeper embodiment, permission to rest, a strange new peace, and the capacity to stand in the deep waters without drowning while still holding the light. Fifth, a vacuum appears where the old organizing tension used to be. That vacuum is not a wound, it is the living space in which new life can be drawn in as a necessity rather than as a possession. This threshold belongs to the early phase of the rubedo, the reddening. The rubedo is the stage in which the purified material begins to take on the color of life and a generative power. It does not arrive all at once as the full scarlet of the completed stone. The rose that first appears is often pale pink or almost white, still tight, not yet in full blossom. It is real, living, and delicate precisely because it now grows on the ground rather than remaining protected in the isolated tower of the mind. It must be tended. The purity of the offering determines everything. If the giving is mixed with calculation or with a secret demand that the world return the gift in some form, the astral structure is only partially dissolved. The aftermath is then bitterness, depression, anger, or a hardening back into isolation. When the offering is pure, the deeper matrix can receive it. The maternal embrace appears. The light of the Father remains. The freedom that follows is odd, tender, and edged with emptiness rather than simply happy, because something structural has actually died and something new has begun. This is the wonder of the chemical wedding. It is not a metaphor for ordinary self-improvement. It is a real operation in which the last substantial claim on the world is spent. The old royal pair is beheaded and a new life is quietly born inside the joined vessel. The knight who has made the offering no longer serves his own residual hunger for completion. He serves the higher currents themselves. The Grail becomes visible not because it has been seized, but because the eyes that sought it as a personal or worldly acquisition have died. What remains is the early life of the rose, fragile, luminous, and already real.